The first day of the JSC reruns getting off to a shaky start. Now remember, Casac challenged the constitutionality of the initial interviews and deliberation process which brought us to this point. eNCA reporter Heidi Giokos is at those proceedings, following them very closely. Let's go live to her now to get the latest. Heidi, good afternoon. I understand Advocate Alan Dodson took the spotlight today, and he's been there discussing or responding to questions. How did he fare?
Yes, indeed. By then we've actually heard from 4 people that were supposed to be, or rather were interviewed from early this morning. And one of us, just remember that this is a rerun of interviews that were done in April because of that High Court judgment, that the interviews need to be redone because of the conduct and the line questioning in those April interviews, and basically Casac saying that those interviews were unconstitutional. But of course, Advocate Dodson is also a senior counsel who is not a sitting judge at the moment. He spoke about his experience over the last years, and also he was questioned by Commissioner Julius Malema about why he should be considered as a Constitutional Court judge, given the fact that he has not ever been in the Constitutional Court as a judge, or currently not sitting as a judge. But he speaks of his experience over the years and how he was an acting judge in the Land Claims Court for some time, and this is the experience that he will be drawing on. What was also questioned is the fact that he is a white male, and questions have been raised about the transformation in the judiciary, and he says there's nothing he can do about being white or being a male, but he is certainly an African and he wants to serve the country. Let's perhaps listen to some of his engagements today.
Mr. Malema, I don't want to get involved in a blame game. And I'm a person I've never acted on that court. I don't know what the circumstances are that obtained there. I don't think the legislation as it stands enables the Constitutional Court to deal with matters quickly in the way that they would ideally like to. Addressing the problem may well require constitutional or at least statutory change. I'm just not in the blame game. I don't have enough knowledge. I don't have enough of a fact base to blame somebody. I would only blame somebody if I had a full set of facts and I knew what the circumstances were.
So you accept you want to walk into something you know nothing about?
That's not what I said.
Well, Heidi, I understand that the other person who's being interviewed is Judge Faiza Kathri Sitilwane, and what's her take on changes being made to the Constitution?
Yes, indeed. She was the second person to be interviewed today, and I must say the questions were directed to her were very different to what we heard from the first person that was being interviewed, and this is because she is a current sitting judge, and of course she has experiences in penning down judgments. She was questioned about what she thinks with regards to the judgment that was handed down by the Constitutional Court for elections to take place. Of course, she was questioned by the president of the JSC, who is the acting Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, together with a number of other commissioners, about what she thinks should be done at the Constitutional Court to speed up the process with regards to judgments being handed down. There have been many concerns and questions raised as to why the Constitutional Court takes such a long time to hand down judgments, and of course the comments that have been raised here and put out here is the fact that a Constitutional Court is the highest court in the land. It is the last court where people head to, and of course people are saying that it takes time, and there are a lot of factors and circumstances at play when judgments are handed down, and then as much as there's an urgency, it should not be unnecessarily rushed. But let's listen to some of those engagements today.
The Constitution is a living document. It's a flexible document. It allows one to, when dealing with the rights in the Bill of Rights, when dealing with any other constitutional provisions, and testing the constitutionality of legislation, of executive conduct, etc. I think it requires a contextual approach And so it's a flexible document. The court decided to go the route that the 5-year period had come to an end and the elections have to be held on a particular day. That was the decision of that court based on its reasoning. But I see the Constitution as an organic living document. And for me, context is very important. I mean, there's no one answer to the question you're asking me, but it's important in any constitutional inquiry to basically look at context and the times. And, 20 years from now, the Constitution may require interpretation that's right for that time as opposed for now. 10 years ago, the Constitution would have required a contextual interpretation or a purpose interpretation for that time. So as I see it, it's a living, organic document that will be informed by the context.
Okay, Heidi, before I let you go, I'm just fascinated, but just to get a sense of the temperature in the atmosphere, the sentiments around there, because I saw Judge Jody Colopin at the end of his session when he was being interviewed, thanking everybody for how the whole interview with him had gone and stuff. What's your sense currently? How are things proceeding?
Well, unfortunately, Dan, we are not in the room where the interviews are being conducted. We have been put into a room that's outside and we get direct feed to the interviews being conducted. But I must say that the sense and the atmosphere is a lot better to what happened in April. Just hearing from Judge Colopin's remarks right at the end, saying thank you for the way in which this interview has been conducted, speaks volumes to the kind and line of questioning that is happening this time around, and the rerun of these interviews speaks directly to the dissatisfaction that happened in April with allegations of personal attacks on certain individuals and certain judges. It also speaks to the fact that we do know that Judge Pillay has opted not to come back today to do the rerun of the interviews, and this speaks to how she was treated in April and how there were personal attacks on her by certain commissioners here at the JSC interview process. So it's a lot better this time around rather, and you can see that there are jokes being made and there's a lot more laughter and conversations had between the panelists and of course the commissioners.
Okay, thank you very much. And all this for the 2 vacancies that have become open at the Constitutional Court. Thank you very much, Heidi Giokos, for that. Well, that is one process that's happening judicially in the country. There's 2 vacancies that are coming up or that are available or opened up at the Constitutional Court, and these current interviews are for that. But there's, of course, another bigger one, which is about the appointment of the new Chief Justice, who's expected, of course, to take over from Mogoeng, who's going to be leaving office officially on the 11th of October, 11th of this month. So that will be another process, but it's separate from this one.